I'm really disappointed to say that I didn't complete one of the prompts from this week. The prompt was landscape, and I just wasn't having a fantastic week. My cat hasn't been very well, and I've had some other stuff going on, but the prompt landscape is what broke me. I couldn't face it. But I am really proud of some of the drawings from later in the week, so I hope that you can forgive me. Anyway, welcome to part 4 of my 99-day drawing challenge. We'll just pretend that this never happened. Let's jump in at prompt number 22, which was royalty. So this one was one that I really wanted to do differently from last year. Last year I did kind of a stereotypical sort of queen-ish character, and I used kind of a royal purple colour because I thought that that would be really nice. I didn't want to go with just like red, so I did like purple and gold last year. But this year I was thinking, how on earth am I going to make this really different from last year? And also keep it a little bit simple, because I think that some of the prompts last week, especially in my last video, they were a little bit too ambitious in places. So I've just been practicing doing things that are maybe a little bit smaller and a little bit more simple, so that I don't completely overwork myself. So a couple of these are smaller and more simple designs, but I do like them better than some of the ones that I rushed. So I think that it's good that I'm simplifying them a little bit. So this prompt, I decided to go in a little bit of a different direction with it, and instead of doing like a queen or a princess character, I did a little child who's dressing up as a princess or a queen character. So I thought that this was a really cute idea. I had done some little sketches in a separate sketchbook, and this was my favourite because it's really simple but also really cute, I think, and I had a lot of fun with it, and I could play around with making it really cartoony as well. So I did this little character who is in kind of a powerful stance, and she has a little gold crown. The crown has some little jewels in, and then she also has like a cape, but I wanted it to look like she had just sort of tied a blanket around her shoulders, because I definitely used to do this as a child. I used some really cute colours. I like the combination. I went with sort of a pink, purple, blue, and then the blonde hair, so yellow as well, and I just think it's a really cute colour palette. Again, this is really simple and there isn't really much to it, but I think it's really cute and I really like it. Prompt number 23 was bugs and beetles. So this is another one that, again, I just really wanted to have fun with and play around with style. I think in the beginning I actually drew a circle in the background because I originally was going to draw a background on this. I wanted like a block colour circle background with some bugs like crawling around the edge of it, but I just didn't have enough time, so you might see in the video that that circle is sketched in the background for the entire process and I never do anything with it, so I did end up erasing that in the end and we just have focus on the character. But this was another one that I could have some fun with and play around with a really cartoony style. So this is another kind of little girl character, and she's just fascinated by these little beetles. So I wanted to do something kind of floaty. I think it's always fun to draw characters kind of floating in space. So it kind of looks like she's falling or maybe just kind of rolling around with these like beetles. But I think it's really cute. I love the colour palette as well. The colour palette was really inspired by this prompt from last year. I think the colours that I chose for that were really cute. Last year's drawing left a lot to be desired. It was really not drawn very well. It looked really rushed, but the colour palette was something that I really liked for this prompt, and I tried to just amp it up a little bit. So I went with a kind of pear green and forest green for the clothes with like a little bit of yellow, and then the orange hair. I think it looks really cute. I like the little outfit I gave her. She's wearing these little like shorts with the big boots. I think it's really cute. And then I coloured the beetles in really bright colours, hoping that they would kind of pop a little bit against the character and just look different and add some contrast. So I think this one turned out really cute. I had a lot of fun making her hair kind of float about all over the place. Again, this is another one that's quite simple. I didn't want to go too overcomplicated with it. And I think it works, and I'm really happy with it. It is a little bit messy in places with the coloured pencil. I'm a little bit disappointed that by the time I got to the end of this illustration, I was rushing it a little bit. So there are a couple of places that are just a little bit messy. But other than that, I'm actually really happy with this one. I really like it. Prompt number 24 was disco. This was one that I struggled with a little bit in the beginning, just coming up with an idea and sticking to that idea. I wasn't sure what to do, and I especially wasn't sure what to do differently from last year. I really like my drawing from last year. I think it's so cute. There's a couple of things about last year's that I don't like. I think some of the proportions are a little bit off, but overall I really like it. And the one thing that I would do majorly different from last year's is I really wanted to add a black background, just so that it looks like a really dark room, and then have the light reflections from the disco balls kind of reflected onto that dark background. But again, this year I didn't do a dark background again, purely because I don't really know how physically to do that. I don't really have... I guess I do have a black marker that I could have used. Maybe I'll add that at some point. I think this year I've taken the approach of, if I don't have enough time to do a good background, then I just won't add one. Because I'm drawing every day, I think if there was an illustration that I felt really needed a background, I could always go back and add it at the end of the challenge or whenever I have some spare time. But for most of these I haven't added a background just because of time restraints and not really having enough time to map it out properly each day. This character is really heavily inspired by the character that I drew last year. I went with a really similar colour palette. I added a couple less colours to her outfit and added more colour into the disco balls, but I just wanted to kind of do the same thing as last year, but a bit different. So she's in a lot more simple pose. She's holding a big like disco ball. She has the disco ball earrings, which I love from last year's illustration, but I made them a lot bigger just to make it more bold. I made her hairstyle kind of bigger too. I went with a really similar colour palette. I gave her the same colour like top shirt thing and the same colour hair, and then I added a lot more bright neon colours into the glitter balls. Oh, and I gave her a metallic skirt instead. I added the metallic marker in the end. But yeah, I think this one's really cute. I had a lot of fun doing the light reflections in the eyes and stuff. I feel like it is lacking a little bit. Like, I would love to have that dark background with all of the light reflections flying around, but like I said, it was just due to not really having enough time to add a background to this. Hopefully I'll be able to add one in the future. Prompt number 25 was a really interesting one. So this one was to use a random number generator, generate two numbers, and then mix those two prompts from my prompt list. I think that doing this is really fun. It's always a surprise because I never know what's going to come up and what I'm going to be drawing that day, but the numbers that I generated were 69 and 53. So 69 is blue because later on in the prompt list there are an entire rainbow of prompts, so we go red, orange, yellow, green, etc. So this one was blue, and number 53 is butterflies. So blue and butterflies I feel like go together really well. I didn't have to be too creative with this. I think, you know, if it had have been a mixture between some other prompts, it might have been a little bit more tricky to mix them together and try to come up with one cohesive thought. But blue and butterflies went together really well. So I just dragged out every single blue marker I have, and I drew a cute butterfly character. I really wanted to make this kind of dainty and cute and sweet, so I made it very sort of small and round in terms of the kind of theme of it. I really like how this turned out. The outfit's pretty simple. I just went with my gut. I didn't plan anything out. I just kind of went for it, and I think it turned out okay. It's not super unique or different, but I think it works and I really like it. I gave the character big wings in the background, obviously, because she's like a butterfly inspired character, and then drew loads of butterflies around her. And then just went in and coloured it with all of my blue markers. I went for a kind of peachy orangey skin tone because I think that goes really well with blue. So the skin tone is kind of orangey peachy colour. And yeah, I had a lot of fun drawing all these little butterflies sort of flying around her. I think that the pose is pretty simple and the composition of it is really simple. I maybe could have extended it even more or made it even more bold or kind of opened it up a bit, because I think that the wings in the background kind of close up the silhouette a little bit. But other than that, I'm really not too mad about anything else. Yeah, I think the outfit could have been changed if I'd just taken a little bit more time to plan it. I could have come up with something that fits the theme a bit better, something that really screams butterfly. I could have even done like a dress made out of butterflies that would have been really big and extravagant. I don't think I really had enough time to try and draw a dress made out of butterflies, but it is a cute idea. But honestly, for what it is, I'm not really that mad at it. I quite like the outfit. I think it looks okay. Overall, I'm really happy with this, to be honest. I think it looks really cute. I added a lot of little details in the end with a fine liner and a white pen. Just added a lot of little dots and sparkles around because I thought that this prompt, it would be appropriate for this prompt to have a lot of sparkles going on. So I think that this one turned out pretty cute. Prompt number 26 was magical, and this one, again, I just wanted to go with kind of a sort of a generic magical girl theme, because I thought it would be really cute. It's really in my comfort zone. I could use a lot of pinks, which I really like using those kind of colour palettes. So for this prompt, I decided to redraw my character from last year. So I went back and looked at my character from last year and decided to just improve upon it as much as I possibly could. There are a couple of differences, like I didn't use blue in this new one. I went with more of an overall pink theme with a little bit of purple thrown in. And even then it's a little bit of a pinkish toned purple. Whereas last year there was some blue thrown in, but I felt like it didn't really fit properly. Like the blue doesn't really look like it really belongs in the image, especially since I shaded the hair with purple last year too. So I don't know why I added that blue in there. But I just made it a lot bigger and a little bit more extravagant. So the biggest thing I think that I fixed from last year's is just making the proportions better and the pose a little bit better. Last year the anatomy is really weird. She's in a really weird pose. She's sort of cut off at the bottom. It's just not good. I really don't like it, and I don't like the face last year's either. So this year I just really wanted to fix up those things. So I kept the pose pretty simple. I didn't go for anything too big or difficult, but I just made it a little bit more sort of cohesive and made it make a little bit more sense as opposed to last year's. I made the hair bigger. Not too much bigger, I just wanted to make it a little bit more deliberate. Like I said, I've been doing that this year, just making things look a little bit more deliberately placed. Like I made the bows bigger on her outfit. I added a little bit more detail into the shoes too, because I feel like last year they were a bit boring. And I did change a couple of the colours. So the one thing that I think I'm pretty disappointed with in my new version is the skin tone's a little weird because my markers are running out again. I don't know what I'm doing wrong or whether markers just don't have as much ink in nowadays as they used to, because they're definitely running out way too quickly. But yeah, a couple of my markers were running out and I wanted to go with a similar skin tone to last year's, and those markers were running out, so I did my best to kind of mix multiple markers together. And I don't think it looks too bad on like the arms, but the legs don't look great. I also messed up the hair a little bit. I added the purple, but the particular marker I used this year looked really weird, so then I tried to go over it with pink, and I think that the hair ended up coming out a little bit muddy looking because I kind of messed it up and went over it so many times with different colours. So I do think that looks a little bit messy, but I really like the line art on this. I really like using pink fine liners for line art. I think it looks really good with the colours. I like the overall colour scheme of the new one, and I just added a lot more dimension to it than last year's. I did a lot more shading and a lot more depth. Last year's looks really flat. But yeah, other than that, there's not too much more to say. I did use my glitter pens to add a little bit of magic stuff on the hands, and I added little hearts too because I thought that would be cute, because last year it was just a sort of magic swirl thing going on around her hands, but this year I just made it a little bit more sort of cohesive, I think I would call it. And prompt number 27 is probably my favourite from this week. This prompt was honey, and I had a lot of fun with this one, like a lot of fun. And to be honest, this is probably the illustration that I'm proudest of from this week especially, but maybe even the whole challenge so far. I really, really enjoyed this one. I love the colour palette. There are a couple of things here and there that I would improve. The anatomy's a little bit weird, but overall I just really like this as an illustration. And I'm really proud of it. So I took a little bit of time trying to get the proportions right because I didn't want to draw a fully proportioned character, if that makes sense. I wanted to go for a little bit more of a kind of a chibi look. It did end up being a little bit difficult to do that because, as it turns out, I'm not very good at doing sort of chibi proportions. So I was drawing this character and then wanting to do realistic proportions on like the arms and the legs, and it wasn't working, so I took a lot of time trying to get the proportions right on this. But once I did, I actually really liked this. The pose is a little bit strange now that I'm looking at it again. She was supposed to sort of be flying a little bit, which is why her legs are like up a little bit, but I'm not sure that it really reads like she's flying. She does have little bee wings. I did her sort of standing on the ground with her one foot and then the other one's in the air, so it just kind of looks like she's leaning, so it almost looks like she's sort of defying gravity a little bit in that she's kind of leaning over. So the pose is a little bit strange now that I'm looking at it again, but I don't hate it, and it was supposed to be that she was kind of floating a little bit. But I did this hexagon in the background just as kind of a little simple background, and I actually really like it. I didn't want to do a full background again because I don't really have enough time to do full backgrounds on these, but I'm really glad that I added a little bit of a simple background because I feel like it just frames the character really nicely. And I absolutely love the colour palette that I chose for this. So the colour palette was obviously inspired by the honey prompt. So she's a little bee character. I don't even know if I explained that. She's a little bee character. She has little bee wings, and I did little black and yellow stripes on her dress, and the top part is kind of fluffy because like some bees, I'm not sure whether honeybees do. There's a type of bee that has kind of like a fluffy body, and I think it's really cute. So I gave her like a little fluffy dress at the top, and then the bottom has these black and yellow stripes on just to kind of indicate that she's a bee, and then I did little bees buzzing around as well, which I think is really cute. And there's just honey dripping everywhere, which I love. I just think it's so cool. I love drawing like drippy effect things. I think we've seen that in this challenge already. I think the ice cream prompt, I did a lot of drippy stuff. I think it's really fun to draw. So I did drips coming down from the hexagon in the background, and then drips from the thing that she saw. What is that? It's like a honey dipper thing. Oh, it is called a honey dipper or a honey spoon. Okay, yeah, so she's holding like a little honey dipper thing, and there's honey dripping from that, and then there's like a puddle on the floor. But I just absolutely love the colours that I chose for this. I went with really bright yellows and then some like deep orange colours, and then tried to blend them all together, and I think it ended up coming out like pretty good. I'm actually really, really proud of this one. So it was really fun to just practice around with how to colour this honey. I think it turned out really cute, and I'm just really happy with this one. And I really like the eyes too. I did like some yellow and orange. It's kind of eye makeup around her eyes, and I just think it looks really cute and ties the whole thing together. I really like this one, and I'm really proud of it. So that is all of the prompts for this week. I really am so disappointed, and I'm really sorry that I didn't do that landscape prompt. I just couldn't face it this week. I just didn't want to face it. I might go back to it later if I have some free time. I'll try and complete it, because I do want this to be 100 days of drawing. So I really want 100 drawings at the end of this challenge, so I'm going to try my best to go back and complete that landscape prompt. Maybe if I ever have a day where I have a little bit of extra time on my hands, I'll go back and do that. But I just found it really daunting this week, and I had a lot going on, so... But yeah, that is all the prompts from this week. I actually really liked all of them, I think. Yeah, I like all of them. Wow, that's amazing. I'm so glad that I have a week where I like all of them. And some of them were a little bit simple, especially that royalty one and maybe the bugs and beetles one as well. Oh, and the disco. I guess they're all pretty simple. They aren't too overcomplicated. I didn't add huge backgrounds or anything like that, but I just wanted to make them simple, cohesive designs with good colour palettes, and I think that's kind of the focus that I want to take with the rest of the prompts, because I just think it's never good to give yourself too much pressure. I don't really want to do a 100-day drawing challenge where I have to completely fill the page every day and do a full background and have it be really detailed, because I just think I'm going to end up getting stressed out and not doing prompts like with the landscape one. But hopefully next week I will have a full set of prompts to show you. I'm really excited to continue this challenge now. I feel like my inspiration has returned completely last week. I really felt like I was struggling a little bit with coming up with ideas and staying motivated, but this week I'm really happy that I'm back on track and that I'm starting to enjoy this challenge again. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I hope to do that a little bit more in the weeks to come. But anyway, yeah, that is all for this week, and I hope I will have even more brilliant prompts to show you next week. Fingers crossed. Alright, goodbye.